but they.
With producer John Myers.
John is with family on this particular Saturday, a couple of Saturdays before Christmas. Hard to believe we're already that close. But Matt's in studio along with me. He'll join me in a moment. I'm Steve West. Thank you very much for joining us. And this week on the show, we're going to look at a few tracks that are undergoing changes. Got big awards for a racer who's, well, used to winning awards. A new tire provider coming to one of the series that we cover. Is there something unprofessional going on in Formula One? Talk more about that. NASCAR, Indycar talking about adding new car manufacturers, but one of those two might actually have something of a more pressing need. Got a substitute driver coming to the NHRA. We got crew chiefs moving around in the NHRA and in NASCAR. And, well, let's face it, that's just the tip of a very, very busy iceberg. And we promise this iceberg will not sink this ship. We're going to get all of it underway right after we take this quick little break here, and we'll get things rolling by actually looking at what happened at Five Flag Speedway last weekend on CRN.
Stay right.
The other stuffs. First of all, let's say good morning to Matt Nicholson.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm awake.
That's a good thing, because we got 2 hours of a show to do.
Well, because when you live near an airport and it's cargo jet express all night long.
That would do it.
Yeah, that'll keep you awake.
It will keep you awake.
And
No doubt about it.
When you can clearly start distinguishing the sound between a 737 and a 727, you know what comes in? Yeah.
And I'll say this, we're going to use a broadcasting term here. And for those of you that are any familiar with broadcasting or have seen a couple of really good movies or TV shows about the broadcasting world, you might be familiar with the phrase burying the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, and this was a producer John thing from, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago now?
Yes.
He came up with the idea that what we needed to do was, regardless of what series it was that we were covering, the biggest story of the week should be the one that led off the show.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, the biggest story of the week comes from the NHRA, but we're not going to lead off with that. And the reason why I'm not is because, well, we didn't get to any Formula E, and there was quite a bit of Formula E news, and we didn't finish off Formula One, so I wanted to give them their proper due. Make sense? So we're kind of going to do things backwards. But first things first, down in Pensacola last weekend, Saturday activities at Five Flag Speedway actually got rained out. So they split everything. Officials pushed the Snowball Derby to Sunday afternoon with better weather. The Snowflake didn't happen until Monday, which was a little odd, but I guess they didn't want to race too late into a Sunday evening?
Yeah, you could say that.
Honestly, I really don't know what the whole idea was.
Yeah.
But either way, that was their choice. Snowball Derby did get along and did very well for about 75 laps, really, last Sunday before a major wreck took out several contenders. But after things got rolling again, second red flag came out for another wreck. And when the race resumed, there was less than 10 laps to go. Ty Majeski found himself near the front all race long, suddenly was in the lead with 7 to go, able to fend off last challenges from Gio Ruggiero. He claimed the 56th annual Snowball Derby title, and that marks his second win in this race in the last 4 years for the Craftsman Truck Series regular for Thor Sport Racing. Travis Braden finished third. Cole Butcher was fourth. Matt Craig, Steven Nassa is the only drivers to finish on the lead lap. Other drivers of note, we had William Sawalich, who claimed 10th. Caden Kvappel, yeah, that name should sound familiar, finished 13th. Johnny Sauter 14th, William Byron 22nd, Noah Gragson 23rd, NASCAR Canada champion Trayton Lapsovich finished 24th, Eric Jones 29th, Ryan Priest, not a good day for him. He did make it to the big show, but he finished 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been a fun show to go see, but being rained out, there was no way I could have made it down there.
No, I couldn't have either.
Yeah.
I had thought about going, but made the decision, weather, and I want to hold back.
Yeah.
It'll be a really long weekend because we know how those long weekends at a racetrack could go.
We do, and we also know how quickly hotel rooms fill up in that area.
They do.
So, yeah, for those of you that went, we know you had a good time because we've been there before. It's a great time. If you haven't had the chance to go to a Snowball Derby, make plans to do so in the future. Absolutely. Because we're planning on going back at some point in time in the very near future.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings us to the news here, and there is a lot of news. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, just because of the fact that we tend to go year-round. Now, we'll take some weekends off, like we took Thanksgiving weekend off. We have plans right now to take the Saturday between Christmas and New Year's off. And there is a possibility. Plans aren't cemented. This is news to Matt. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. There is a chance that we might actually take the Saturday before Christmas off. A chance. Nothing cemented. Okay? But that's really going to be about it. And the reason why is because as we have done this show, as I have done this show, and we've gone through different co-hosts, added the producer John, brought in our resident driver Matt, we have found that there is at least as much, if not more, news that happens during the quote-unquote off-season as happens during the regular season.
Yep.
To witness, I got about 16 pages worth of stuff to talk about here. It's not the highest number we've ever had, but it's getting up there.
And here we go.
Let's start in Formula One, where F1 officials released there will be, as there were in 23, 6 sprint race events on the 2024 calendar. Sprint events are intended to give fans a little bit extra on those weekends for the money that they're paying for those passes. Points are awarded as well, but only to the top 8 as opposed to the top 12. So, a lot of the things carry over, but not everything. For example, some of the races, a little bit different. The 6 sprint events will take place in China. These are in order on the schedule. And we're assuming, of course, that China actually takes place for the first time since, 2019?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so China, Miami, Austria, not Australia, Austria, Circuit of the Americas, Sao Paulo, and then Qatar. Now, again, sprint races were introduced just a couple of years ago, 2021 season specifically. Austria and Qatar are now 3-time hosts of sprint events. COTA in Brazil will become 2-time hosts after next year. But Miami and China are first-timers. Obviously, if it was introduced in 2021, China hasn't raced since 2019. This would make them a first-timer.
Mm-hmm.
F1 officials state that they want the sprint events at tracks that they claim are highly competitive. And they want more overtaking throughout the field, which is why they settled on these 6 in particular. And viewing numbers, they say, also show an uptick. They threw out an example there, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. They had a sprint event in 2023. They saw a jump in viewing of the overall weekend, and specifically where the sprint race fell in the place of in 2022, where the second of the 3 practice sessions held.
Mm-hmm.
They said they saw an 83% jump in the viewership, which I could believe that because, hardcore race fans will watch practice, will watch qualifying because we're interested in seeing how our favorite drivers, or how this, that, or the other thing happens to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to the average viewer, practice session's a practice session. If there's something else going on, they'll probably tune in. Now, for a competitive nature, sure, they'll join in. They're like, hey, there's actually something on the line here.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll tune into it. I get that.
Yep.
So, yeah, sure, bring it on. The race at COTA in Austin, Texas saw a sprint take the place of the second practice session as well. They say from 2022, where it was the second practice session, to 2023 for the sprint race, viewership jumped 123%. Series officials said, and for the Belgian Grand Prix, same replacement slate in place. Interestingly enough, viewership was up, but only about 34% over the 2022 numbers. But either way, it's a jump in viewership, and that says something to Sky Sports, says something to ESPN, which, yes, they crib off of Sky Sports for their coverage, but still, they get viewership numbers of their own. Every other network all around the world, that says something to them because they want eyeballs on this stuff. And therefore, if you have something on the line and the viewership ticks up, that really does open the eyeballs of those people who are in charge of saying, do we really want to carry Formula One this year? I think we do. Boom.
Yep.
Now, with the 2023 season done, Alfa Romeo is now officially out as the team title sponsor, and that is leaving Sauber officials to begin working on their kind of new look future. Now, we know what a couple of years from now holds. Obviously, we're awaiting Audi's arrival in 2026. With that pending, team principal Alessandro Alunni Bravi, and I know I got that wrong, and I apologize to him in advance, stated things are going to move quickly, beginning with the 2024 reveal of their race car. It's mid-December. It's not even Christmas, and we're already talking about reveals of race cars. Usually, we don't see this and start hearing about dates until like 3 weeks, if that, before we get into the first practice session of the preseason.
Yeah.
So this shows me that Sauber is really, really hot to get everything going and to start on their future. Robbie said they likely would have already shown off their 2024 racer, but they had to wait for the FIA to publish the official entry list for the 2024 season by all rules. So tomorrow, as we air live, and we air live on Saturday mornings, for those of you that may be watching a replay on YouTube, we air live on Saturday mornings, which means right now as we're on, it is 8:13 a.m. Central Time in the United States of America on December the 9th. So tomorrow, as we air live, they're planning on showing off their new car. Of course, they're going to wait until Sunday, the day after, whether we're on the air. Thanks a lot, Sauber. They're going to show the new car off in another change, Britain. This is an Austrian-based team, mind you, and they usually show off their new racers near their home base, but this time they chose to show it off in the UK, promised to unveil their new for 2024 competition name as well. So in other words, they may not be competing under the Sauber name after all, like we kind of thought. Ravi said, quote, "This year we concluded our successful partnership with Alfa Romeo. For 2024, we will, of course, have a different team name." He added on Monday, quote, "As you know, in Formula One, the team name is also the pending foreign commercial partnership." So they do have a title sponsor for at least 2024. He finalized it by saying, "We don't want to disclose anything more tonight." And they've been very, very quiet since then. And I give them a lot of credit. Because with all the eyeballs that are on the motorsports world, I mean, we're just 3 sets of eyeballs between myself, Matt, and John. And you want to talk about tip of the iceberg, that's that much showing, and all the rest is underwater of this iceberg of how many eyeballs are watching motorsport activity all over the world. Mm-hmm. And Formula One being the world traveling series that it is, there's a lot, not only in the United States, but all over Europe. And none of them have come up with, we're hearing that Sauber has signed with X company. So you got to give Sauber a lot of credit for being able to keep whoever it is that their title sponsor for 2024 is under wraps. You got to give them a lot of credit.
You do have to. I mean, per se, that's taking a page out of Stuart Haas's book.
Yeah. When they threw the curveball that said, "Hey,
yeah,
we're switching to Ford," and everybody on the planet went, "You're going to do what?"
Huh?
Where did that come from?
But when you have, I wouldn't say it, when you have idiots like Jordan Bianchi that give you this, sources say this, sources say that.
Yeah.
And, and you don't know if he's 50% right or if he's 100% wrong.
Mm-hmm. And it's, a flip of a coin as to which one it might be.
Very true.
So, hey, good. Congratulations to him. Good luck on the reveal. We'll be paying attention to it. And, of course, we'll have all the details next week on the show, including, if we can get a look at it, a look at the car. As for Mick Schumacher, you remember him? He came up to Haas F1 in 2021, but he lost that seat after 2 seasons to the return of Nico Hülkenberg. Well, he landed at Mercedes for 2023 as one of their reserve drivers, and that is a role he will continue in 2024, but he's also going to add this responsibility. And this ought to be interesting because he's actually kind of serving 2 masters next year. So he's a reserve driver for Mercedes in 2024. He's going to join the World Endurance Challenge Series next year as well. Noted his father, Michael Schumacher, did much the same. Raced in WEC competition before he joined the Jordan F1 team for 1991. But where we go, the 2 masters part is the WEC series team that he's joining is not Mercedes. It's Alpine. Now, I don't blame him. He's getting a ride. He's getting the chance to get behind the wheel competitively. Knock yourself out. Go for it. Our resident driver over there would tell you exactly the same, if not say it more adamantly than I am.
Half helmet will travel.
But at the same time, it does seem interesting that Mercedes is willing to let him sign with Alpine, and Alpine is willing to let him keep the reserve driver role at Mercedes. Are they that separated out? I mean, a race team is a race team. Things get said.
I mean, yeah, because there's no connection to F1 whatsoever from a technical standpoint.
Sure, I get that.
Nothing
but
with the
again,
car.
you hear things in the hallway.
Oh, yeah. Like, Just like things I've overheard within the last week, you're like, oh, really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, stuff that we're not going to put on the air, obviously, because we're not in a position to where we want to violate anybody's trust.
Bingo.
But at the same time, you hear things in the hallway, and if he happens to be in the hallway at the same time they say something about the Alpine Formula One car, how tempting is it for him to talk to his Mercedes bosses and go, by the way, heard this? I mean, is that not tempting?
Yeah, it's very tempting, but at the same time, Mercedes obviously sees Alpine as no threat.
I guess.
That's got to be the key factor, because if Alpine was on a level of Ferrari, because that's the closest, closest team to Mercedes,
And I think at that point in time, Mercedes probably would have said, you know what, I know that you really want to drive, but I'm going to say no. We need to pump the brakes on you going to race for them, even if it is the WEC series.
Right. They obviously, as I said, they obviously see them as no threat because, backing up again, if they were on the same level as Ferrari or even per se McLaren.
Sure.
They might go, wait just a minute here.
Yeah. We might think about, you want to really get more driving in. Maybe we need to find something else for you.
Right.
I got you. Well, I mean, there's the German DTM series.
True.
Guess not. Early in the week, the FIA announced that it was following up on a media report that claimed a potential conflict of interest. Huh? Yeah. It's interesting stuff here. It's kind of one of those soap opera things that we like to talk about from time to time. Because it's one of those deals where you get a reporter who starts saying stuff and prints it, and it creates a ruckus for really no need whatsoever. These are the kind of reporters that, we here on CRN don't like. And we basically come out and tell you, we'll never trust them again. We'll detail it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, you, go enjoy 70...
On the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Again, without producer John this week, he has a family. Apparently, one of his granddaughters appeared in the parade up in the hometown that they're in, up near Haleyville.
Aha. So
he had to be part of that. And you know what? I've said it before. I'll say it again. Family comes first on this show. So go take care of the family, man, and hope it was a great parade and enjoy your day off, man. Now, early in the week, really it was about Tuesday, FIA announced that it was following up on a media report that had claimed a potential conflict of interest. And let's face it, conflict of interest is a pretty serious thing. So they was talking about like transfer of confidential information. And this goes between the marriage of Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff and his wife Susie. Now, Susie, of course, at one point in time was heavily involved in Formula E. And, you know, if they exchanged information, it wasn't going to be any kind of a big deal. Well, Susie left the Formula E, the whole entity. After, was it the 21 or 22 season?
21.
After the 21 season.
21.
Where'd she land? At the all-female F1 Academy Series. There's a little bit more involved there, and there's a little bit more that's, let's just say, in common between the F1 Academy Series and Formula One. That division is supported by all 10 teams in Formula One. That's what we mean by how close. In her role, Susie Wolff reports directly to Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali. Well, this investigation, such as it was, began because they came out with a report in F1 Business Magazine. Yes, it's actually a thing. It's really European. Which claimed some other team principals had complained about this potential conflict of interest where information might have gotten passed in, say, we're a family show, so I'll say the words pillow talk. How's that?
That'll work.
On Thursday, the FIA released a statement following one released by all 10 teams that refuted the report, claiming they all 10 teams supported Susie, that the FIA was no longer looking into the report, and they were satisfied that compliance management within the Formula One management ladder was, as they said, quote, robust enough to prevent any unauthorized disclosure of confidential information, and, quote, the FIA can confirm that there is no ongoing investigation in terms of either ethical or disciplinary inquiries involving any individuals.
End quote.
Now, I get it. The FIA is attempting, at least in this case, to be rather transparent.
Sure.
We heard this report. We looked into it. We found nothing.
Right.
Closed. We're done. Case closed. But this being the soap opera that it is, the story's not over.
Unfortunately, no.
Susie Wolff put out a statement of her own, said she was, quote, deeply insulted, unquote, by not only the insinuation by the report, but the speculation that led to the investigation. Mercedes officials added that the speculation, quote, wrongly impinges on the integrity and compliance of our team principal, unquote. And Liberty Media, the commercial rights holders of Formula One, noted that they, quote, have complete confidence in that the allegations are wrong. Well, I don't have a problem with that. I think they're all correct. But now you've got Susie and Toto coming out and complaining loudly that the FIA even opened the investigation in the first place. In this case, this is where I think they're a little bit off base.
I agree. I do agree.
Do I think they should be mad? Yes.
Absolutely, they should be.
Do I think they should be mad at the FIA? No. You want to know who you should be mad at? F1 Business Magazine and their author, whoever penned this ridiculous thing, which, no, I didn't go into the investigation deep enough to find out who the author was. Because I also believe in this particular case, that person probably doesn't deserve the notoriety that they would get from having their name released on this show and or any other. At some points in time, we're going to tell you this person penned this report, and you know what? We don't trust them anymore. But I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know there was such a thing as F1 Business Magazine before this report came out. It does hurt their integrity. Because now that I know that they're an entity, I might look into them, but I'm not so certain that I'm going to believe any report that they put out.
It seems like they've had their hands dabbling in things in the past before, like the 2021 cost cap leak.
Yeah.
They were a part of that. Let's see what else. See if I can see a name.
But I go back to this in that saying, do I think the Wolves have a case to be upset? 110%. But to be upset at the FIA, to say, oh, wait a minute, this could be a severe black eye on Formula One and the FIA, in that it could hurt our integrity, they needed to look into this just to make sure that there was no indiscretion, that there wasn't any question of whether there was something funky going on in the background.
Right.
I think it's highly telling that they spent 2.5 days tops looking into it and going, you know what? We're done. No, you got nothing to look into. And they dropped it. This is the FIA doing due diligence based upon a report that came in.
Mm-hmm.
It's the report that they should be upset at, and the reporter who came up with the report that they should be upset at. So I think the Wolves' anger is misdirected.
Yep. I agree with that. That's so funny. I mean, you sitting here looking at this in the actual article where it was shown online, but whoever penned the article, the name is not there. That is hilarious.
That says something to me as well.
But I found it. I found it funny. Let's just say it that way.
Okay.
That as soon as this hit through social media, all of the team social media channels, Ferrari, Red Bull, Alpine, Aston Martin, McLaren,
They were quick.
And every single release was worded the identical same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm like, did
they all get together and decide to release the same thing?
hey, we need this. I want to say this right here. We didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mercedes looks over at Williams, who runs Mercedes engines, and goes, we're going to say it this way. Okay, sounds good. We'll put it out that way too. And then all of a sudden, Mercedes and Williams say to Ferrari, by the way, putting this out, Ferrari goes, yeah, we like that. We'll use it. And they tell Haas F1 and Sauber, their customer base, they go and do the same thing. I mean, this happens quick, boys and girls. It happens real quick.
It does.
But you know what? This is why you got PR people. This is why PR people are employed by Ferrari and Mercedes and Haas F1 and Sauber / formerly Alfa Romeo and Alpine and all these others. You hire these PR people to go in there and go, okay, I like what you got here. What we're going to do is reword it just a little bit so it looks more like ours. I'm available for hire. Just saying. I've done it before. I can do it again. On a better note, for Pirelli at least, they no longer have to worry about the drivers complaining about not having heat in the tires at the start of a run, because F1 officials have announced that idea of banning tire blankets that they were planning for 2025.
Yep.
Yeah, you can scrap that again. This was something that they began talking about, I want to say 2019, 2020.
Something like that.
And they just continue to push it back and delay it and say nope. And eventually it got pushed all the way back to idea of beginning it in 2025. And now we're just killing it altogether, apparently. Means the company now can start a testing program for the 2025 tires and simply concentrate on the new compounds and try to figure out how to keep them from overheating during race conditions, which was a problem. Just ask Haas F1. Again, this looks like Pirelli's going to be in pretty good shape for a couple more years. We know that they are the sole tire provider for Formula One through, I think, the 2025 season.
Yes.
I think their contract wraps up at the same time as this current generation of car wraps up.
Yes.
And considering what they've done, I think other tire manufacturers will probably come in and try and compete for it, but Pirelli, I think, has the inside track on it just because of the fact that they have this kind of a deal well ahead of time, and now they can spend the entire 2024 year continuing to work on compounds that for 2025 and beyond will be, hopefully, that much better.
Right.
And Haas F1 is going, please make a better tire.
No joke.
Did you ever hear this from your mother and father? And I'm going to, again, we're on at a family time, so I'm going to word this very carefully. But did you ever hear from your mother and father, they warned you that you were showing your, well, butt?
Mm-hmm.
I heard it. Probably more often than I needed to. Taking it to another level, Alfa Romeo, now Sauber driver Valtteri Bottas, did and raised a pretty good amount of money for it as well. What am I talking about? Well, pardon the pun, this goes back to when Bottas was with his longtime girlfriend, Tiffany Cromwell, and photographer, and they were visiting Aspen, Colorado earlier on in 2023, and they happened to get a picture of Valtteri Bottas when he was swimming in a stream, naked, and showing his butt. So they posted the picture on Instagram, and it instantly became a hit. So light bulbs flashed on and off in heads, and he and Cromwell and the photographer came up with the idea of raising money for charity based on his posterior. They printed off 10,000 calendars of Valtteri Bottas showing his butt in various poses. They sold them for €5 each, and they all sold out quickly, and more have been ordered to print. All the money, they say, is going to the men's health charity known as Movember. Bottas says he expects to raise hopefully about $150,000.
It's
I give him credit for raising the money for the charity, but it's a very interesting way to do it.
It's odd to say that. It's very odd, but
Yeah.
the cause that it's going for prostate cancer research, hey,
It's good stuff.
whatever works.
It's funny,
Funny, but whatever works.
but it's good.
Yeah.
We appreciate his efforts. Over to Formula E here, and we got the first of a couple of pictures here. We don't have many this week, but we do have a couple, and Formula E officials have confirmed their final official dates for the 2024 schedule. Most races in a season, by the way, in the relatively short history. This, again, we're going into the 10th year. They're going to have 17 races. We've seen 16, but now we're going to get 17. Most dates had already been confirmed. We detailed most of the calendar when it was released, about a month ago now?
Mm-hmm.
Give or take? But there were a couple of TBD, to be discussed, or to be declared spots when the so-called official schedule was initially released. With an Italian race confirmed and a location, now all slots are spoken for when it comes to the upcoming season. That Italian race will not, as has been the case in the past, take place in Rome, but instead take place at the Misano Adriatico. I hope I got that right. It's best known to Formula One fans as kind of being in the Emilia-Romagna region. The track itself is near the Rimini Beach Resort, and I know I'm getting most of this stuff wrong, but I'm not Italian, and I apologize. This track is a very popular one with MotoGP competitors. We don't often talk MotoGP here, but this will actually be the first of 2 times we're going to mention the series here on the show this weekend. That was the final race, by the way, to be absolutely confirmed. And they've made it a doubleheader weekend. So you're going to get racing on April 13th and April 14th. And you should, I think, you see a picture of it right now on CRN Live on YouTube. Race course is officially known as the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. How about Simoncelli? I'll go with that. Features 16 turns over 2.62 miles in full Grand Prix form. It appears at this time that Formula E does intend to use the full course, which will mean one of the longer laps on the schedule, if that indeed holds true. But in looking at this, there's a couple of different places where they could do a crossover and make it shorter. So we'll see. I mean, it's like a lot of MotoGP kind of courses that can be used for many different series in that. I mean, we take Barber Motorsports Park, which is in our own backyard, for example. There's a crossover that could make Barber Motorsports Park a lot shorter than what we see IndyCar race on.
Oh, considerably.
Okay?
Considerably.
There's a couple of areas here, I think, where they could make this shorter if they chose to. But I'll be honest with you. With the way that they keep talking about this new technology coming in the next generation, which does begin in Formula E in season number 10, I think this is a good test of exactly how good is your battery technology. Because sooner or later, if we're insistent upon going down the road of making all cars electric, battery powered, whatever you choose, You're going to have to get these things to the point where the technology is advancing at a rate much faster than what it has been.
Right.
And you need to press this issue and see how far these cars are actually going to go on a track like that. 16 turns, run the full 2.62, mile long course. Do it. I want to see it. And I think that's something that Formula E should be aspiring to.
I would looking at the course, I would leave it alone.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, that's a good looking course. You got a couple of pretty good straightaways, and this area, if you're looking at it on the screen on CRN Live on YouTube, kind of like we are, you kind of go through the process of the top right-hand corner of the track. Those are nice sweeping curves where I think you could probably really run that flat out or almost flat out.
Because I don't know which direction the turns lay, but what I would say is on the northeast corner, north to northeast side.
Yeah.
I see one really good high-speed zone.
Absolutely. And depending on how much that dog leg right there in the middle of that, you may not have to slow down at all.
That looks
and if
like,
you don't, that's a real good high-speed run.
That looks like maybe a 30-degree turn. Maybe 30.
Yeah. This is a good course. I like this course.
20 to 30. Let's say 20 to 30.
Yeah, I like this course.
It's not bad at all.
I might actually have to check this race out. I think I might have a Paramount Plus friend. I don't have a subscription, but I might have a friend who does. Just saying. Then there's the United States-based race. Speaking of doubleheaders, we're going to get into that when we come back. We got another picture coming up here as well when it comes to that. So we'll kind of fill out the rest of the whole situation when it comes to Formula E, and then we'll turn our attention to Indycar before top of the hour. And next hour, got some straight line racing and stock car news to talk about. There's a whole lot of that coming up as well. We're really kind of just underway on CRN. Formula E racing in and around city street locations pretty cool. So I'll give them that. But I really would like to see Formula E do a whole heck of a lot more actual race courses. So the fact that they're in Italy going to this race course is a good thing. Here in the United States, the U.S.-based race set once again to run at Portland International Raceway is also a good thing. And here's the thing. This is where we go from 16 races in the next calendar year to 17 because they decided instead of Portland and the U.S. being a single event weekend, it will now be a doubleheader weekend. So there's your 17th race. The races will be June 29th and June 30th, making Portland a doubleheader weekend, 5 doubleheader weekends in 2024. Go for it. I think it's a good thing.
Interesting.
There's also Berlin, and here's where another picture comes in. Berlin has been on the schedule since, well, the first year of Formula E, but they're revamping their look at the old Berlin Tempelhof Airport course. The most recent iteration had been a 1.46-mile-long course with a whole lot of switchbacks on the tarmac of the old airport facility. This new one will be a little bit longer. It's going to be a touch over 1.5 miles long. It's going to be 15 corners in all. They're promising longer straights, which means higher speeds. Hankook said they're already working on that challenge, knowing that the track surface, aged as it is, it's an abandoned airport, and they've had no reason to repave it in any way, shape, or form, so it's an abandoned airport. Okay? It acts, well, kind of like sandpaper. That creates a challenge for the tires. The driver's trying to manage that as well. So the look that you see right there, yeah, you see that start-finish line right there at the top. If you're looking at CRN Live on YouTube, that straightaway right there is very similar. And it's going counterclockwise. So if you look at it right there, you've got a lot of areas where there's a lot of straights, but on that area right now, what you would be the southeastern corner of the picture, all the way up to the northeastern corner of the picture, they took out a big sweeping hairpin corner. And now all of a sudden you go from turns 12 to 13 to 14 to 15. All of that's much faster, which means you're going to have a much higher top speed getting onto the front straight. And once you get to turn 1, they'll be going much faster.
I like it.
I like it too. So congratulations to them. And thank you to FIAFormulaE.com for a look at both of those tracks. As far as other news within Formula E over at Tag Heuer Porsche, they have named their 2024 test and reserve drivers, which we don't normally mention, so probably going to be a big name, right? Yep. Not the first one. The team has selected David Beckman as the test and secondary reserve driver, and he moves to the team after being the official reserve driver over at Avalanche Andretti for 2023, which, by the way, Avalanche Andretti gets their powertrains, their batteries, from the Tag Heuer Porsche operation. The bigger news is who their other test and who their primary reserve driver is. And that guy's no less than Andre Lotterer. Lotterer made his debut in Formula E competition back in 2019 and took second place in his very first race for Porsche, raced for Avalanche Andretti last year, but decided to move in a different direction. He's landed with the Porsche factory racing team where he will primarily concentrate on trying to win the 24 Hours Le Mans. But again, he is the primary reserve driver for the Tag Heuer Porsche Formula E team as well. If you get a guy who has done that well in Formula E competition as your primary reserve driver, that's a nice pull.
And you better hang on to him.
Yep. Good luck. If you have become a Formula E fan over the 9 years of the series' existence, or if you just recently became a fan and you'd like to kind of catch up on how all things began, you can now. You need to register with Formula E to access all the races, but that's free. Don't have to pay for it. All of the races from season 1 through 9 are available to you, but they report that the registration, again, costs nothing and immediately lets you access every single race from green flag, from the drop of the green flag or the turning off of the red lights, all the way to the checkered flag from all 9 seasons. If you'd like to learn more, go to FIAFormulaE.com, and if you so choose, register there. Mm-hmm. My question is I would be interested to do this specifically for one race. And it's the very first race ever. Mm-hmm. Because, again, we started covering this as a curiosity. Turns out it turned into an actual series. Who knew? But at the beginning, the coverage in the United States of America was not on the CBS Sports Network, which I don't get. Mm-hmm. It was on Fox Sports 1, which I do get. And I thought, you know what? I need to watch this. I'm too curious. I got to find out. Well, the fine folks at Fox Sports 1 were so concerned about the fact that there was no engine noise that for the entirety of race number 1 on Fox Sports 1, they played a music bed throughout the entirety of the race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to whether that was Fox Sports 1 or whether that came from whatever television network was generating the coverage for Fox Sports 1.
That's a good question.
That's my main curiosity.
Very good question.
Jake Dennis assigned a long-term extension with Avalanche Andretti. It makes sense. He claimed the 2023 Series championship. You kind of want to keep your champion there. Dennis debuted with Andretti in 2021, began claiming wins quickly, and with the rise of the team, claimed his first title only 2 years after that. Details of the contract were not revealed, but I am led to believe it is a long-term deal. And could Hankook be a one-generation-and-done tire provider for Formula E? Turns out that is the case. FIA revealed that the company's granted tender winner status under the next-generation Formula E racer. Out of all of them, Bridgestone comes out on top. Bridgestone was last in open-wheel competition as a tire provider back in 2010. That was the last year of their deal with Formula One before they lost the contract to Pirelli. They tried unsuccessfully a couple of years ago to get back into Formula One, but again, Pirelli won it again. So Bridgestone began turning their attention over to and got the contract for Formula E. It will coincide with their planned next generation of Formula E racer. So here's the deal. We're in Gen 3 now. Literally, we are just starting Generation 3 of the Formula E racer. The Gen 4 racer is set to debut in 2028. And how many generations are we in NASCAR Cup Series? What we now call the Cup Series?
That'd be 7.
They're about to be in 4. And they will be at season 15. It took NASCAR 75 years to get to 7 generations.
Yeah, that's 1 every 10 years average.
But this is one of those deals where the technology within the battery-operated car world, I'm sorry, that's what I call it now, is advancing and changing so radically that, yeah, it kind of necessitates different generations. So in other words, Bridgestone will come in when the new car comes in. Hankook continues with Formula E as their official tire throughout the remainder of the Gen 3 time, through 2027 at least. But this does assume that the Gen 4 racer will actually debut in 2028. And we've seen delays on this particular situation before.
I think we've seen a couple, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So here's the situation. Hankook and their contract basically states, as long as the Gen 3 is on the track, they're the official tire provider. Once you go to Gen 4, then it becomes Bridgestone. That's why we're saying it's not a hard and fast rule that 2028's there. Hankook is there for as long as the Gen 3 lasts on the track. Then you switch to Bridgestone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different way of doing it. We'll see whether it works out well or not. I'd be curious. As we turn our attention to the American-based open-wheel series IndyCar, 2024 NTT IndyCar Series season is approaching rather quickly. As a matter of fact, as of just yesterday, just in time for Christmas, tickets for the season opener, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, have officially gone on sale. Now, again, as we are live, it's Saturday, December the 9th. So on Friday, December the 8th, they went on sale. The race will celebrate their 20th anniversary. And you can purchase them by going on to gpstpete.com. Pricing starts for a reserved 3-day grandstand seat at $135. For general admission, 3 days, $70. And then there's junior pricing available for fans 12 and under. Pit and Firestone paddock passes can also be purchased for an extra price. Single-day tickets are not on sale at this time, but they will become available early in 2024. But still, for 3 days, grandstand seats guaranteed, $135 per person. I've seen a lot worse. Have you looked at concert ticket prices lately?
Yeah, there's considerably worse out there.
Yeah. I mean, considering the fact that for the first time ever, we saw a concert tour gross $1 billion, Taylor Swift. Think of the ticket prices. $135 in the grand scheme of things is not bad. Is it more than what I'm really overtly comfortable with? Yes. But again, you got to kind of compare things to ticket versus ticket.
I'll give you an example of that. There are individuals that I know that reside within these state boundaries.
Yes.
Actually, within a very adjunct county to where we're sitting right now.
Okay.
That 4 of them got on an airplane, went all the way to SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California.
That's a cross-country tip, ladies and gentlemen.
Just to go see Taylor Swift.
Yep. So that meant...
When she was in Atlanta.
Yeah. That meant that they had to get 4 tickets at Taylor Swift prices.
Hey, let me add this. 4 field level tickets.
Ooh. 4 field level tickets for Taylor Swift.
Ooh.
4 airplane tickets and a hotel.
Yeah.
Not a cheap trip, boys and girls. Not a cheap trip at all. Hope you had a good time. Meantime, then there's the talk about what's going on with the IndyCar race cars. Now, at some point in time, there's going to have to be a new chassis to come into service. But according to Penske Entertainment CEO Mark Miles, it's not a priority. He talked to Racer.com this week, and he said, quote, "I would say that we are entirely focused on the hybrid and getting that on the track and having it be an additive for our racing, improving the quality of the racing and increasing the chances of us finding a third OEM that we would like to find and bring in." Well, that leaves us with the same Dallara DW12 chassis that's currently in use, and for 2024, it'll be in its 13th season. There's a reason it's called the DW12. It debuted in 2012. Since then, the car has seen several revisions, including arguably the biggest one yet, moving to the hybrid powertrain. So when are we going to see a new chassis? Miles addressed that, said, quote, "I don't think a new chassis is going to get in the front of that line at this point. When it might become relevant, I don't know." Now, we've seen the Dallara DW12 in action ourselves in person live on a couple of different occasions out of Barber Motorsports Park. It's a good chassis. There's a reason why it's been in existence and they've used it since 2012. I'll give them that. And it seems highly adaptable to the point where you can go from a twin-turbo V6 to a twin-turbo hybrid V6. That says a lot about the adaptability of the chassis. But yeah, at some point in time, don't you have to just go, you know what? Its time is done and we need to figure out the next edition.
Right.
Somewhere down the line. I mean, Formula One, some of these teams change the chassis year to year. Sometimes it's just the body work. In other cases, they have to do a major overhaul of the chassis every year, every other year. For this chassis to have been in existence that long, you kind of got to wonder what is next and whether or not anybody at Dallara has already started to work on that. I mean, wouldn't somebody somewhere at least have something on a drawing board that said, hey, I've got an idea, maybe this could be the basis for a new chassis?
I'm going to pretend I didn't just see that. I'll tell you in a break. We're about to go to break. I'll tell you in the break.
Okay. We'll find out. It'll be very, very interesting. But as far as that other OEM, we've been talking about this for, I don't know, it's been kind of in the pipeline for a few years now over in IndyCar. In the fact that Miles mentioned a potential third OEM or original equipment manufacturer, Chevrolet and Honda. They're going into their 12th season as the only two within the IndyCar ranks. Miles said, quote, "I think that we're not likely to see a third OEM happen until we get the hybrid on the track and people see what it does for us. Then I think it does some great things. The technology itself is interesting. It was a real development. It's not some kind of hybrid motor off the shelf. So huge kudos to both Ilmor, GM, and Honda for their hands-on work to develop this technology with us. 2, it's more horsepower and more exciting racing, meaning, he hopes, more passing. It offers that opportunity. And 3, if you were the next prospective OEM coming in, You look at Honda and Chevrolet as having a whole lot of experience, so a change like this might create an opportunity that might encourage a third OEM to join us. We'll see, unquote. Okay. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Ford's going into Formula One as a brand, not really an engine builder. Look up the Red Bull deal with Ford. They've got that what do they call it? Ecotech?
Ford?
Yeah.
EcoBoost.
EcoBoost, thank you. They got the EcoBoost system, which is already a twin-turbo V6.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ford's done hybrid before. Producer John's got a hybrid Ford right now. He owns it. It's called the C-Max. Wouldn't be that hard for Ford to just basically jump right in.
No, not at all.
But there's more to this story.
Yeah.
Isn't there always? Because one of the two current operating OEMs has a bit of a problem with how much money they're putting out on an annual basis when it comes to supplying engines for Indycar. So we'll tell you more about it. Plus, we'll talk about testing of the hybrid system because what was supposed to debut at the beginning of 2024 apparently ain't gonna.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Concert ticket prices.
let's just say this guy, and I'm pretty sure that guy over there too, will not be watching a Taylor Swift concert ever.
If I really wanted to see a Taylor Swift concert that bad, I'd watch the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't seen it. I'm an avid moviegoer. I haven't seen the concert film.
Obstructed views, and it says it clearly on a secondary marketplace site known as StubHub. Obstructed or limited view seats over $1,100 in the upper level. End of discussion.
Journey's coming to the city of Birmingham with Toto to play at the BJCC Arena.
Don't stop believing.
I could get non-obstructed, but yet still nosebleed section seats for $31. If I wanted to get up close and personal, down on the floor, right in front of the stage, I could get them for about $150.
Which for
Think about
them would be worth it.
Absolutely. I've never seen Toto in concert. I've seen Journey many, many times. Worth it every time. Haven't seen Toto in concert ever. Haven't seen Taylor Swift. Sorry, Taylor. Would rather see Toto. We were talking about the hybrid system when it came to IndyCar. Thing is, about that hybrid system, despite more than a year of testing, officials at IndyCar have decided it's not debuting at St. Pete. All that money, and it's still not ready for prime time. The energy recovery system, all of that is, well, really, the energy recovery system is the main aspect that's delaying this. They plan on debuting it now after the 108th running of the Indy 500. So Detroit, the very next week? Or when? They haven't really said. But officials state that they want to ensure a successful racing introduction, so they wanted to spend a little bit more time in development to be able to ensure that. You know, there was a time when the Indy 500 was IndyCar's way of debuting all kinds of brand new technology. Mm-hmm. I think they're missing out on an opportunity. I really do.
Yeah. Yep.
Guess we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another report, this one from Racer.com, that might just throw a big monkey wrench into the entire works. Chuck Shifsky of the American Honda Motorsports Company, he's the manager of American Honda Motorsports specifically, he told the site they might be seeking an exit from IndyCar unless changes are forthcoming. Oh, goody. Shifsky said, quote, "We have great concerns over the costs. If we were to choose not to renew, that would be the reason why, and it's easy to see. We don't have a third manufacturer. There's a reason for that. It has to do with the cost. If the return on investment matched up with the investment, we'd have a number of other manufacturers involved."
Whoa.
That's his words, not mine.
Hey, Chuck. You're looking to get back into F1.
Let's go down that road, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't know whether this threat actually has teeth or not, or whether it's more of an idle threat. We'll see. But remember, Honda officials told F1 officials that they were leaving that series. And they did. They all but did. They sold all the equipment to Red Bull, meaning that all engines, regardless of what they'll be branded at in the future, read 2026 when they've got Ford listed on the side of it, it's still going to be based on the Honda design. Then Honda officials said, you know what, F1? We like the new engine rules for 2026, so guess what? We're back. We'll be an official engine supplier beginning again in 2026, just not for Red Bull. And so far, no other team has signed on with them.
Yet. But there's something I see in this next words that you have here that are striking.
Yeah. This could light a bigger fire under IndyCar officials to try and find that third OEM, because dividing the teams to where they're split roughly in half between Chevrolet and Honda in providing engines to teams, and I say roughly in half because Honda's actually providing engines to 15 entries, whereas Chevrolet's doing it for 12 on the planned 27 full-time cars for 2024. reports have Chevrolet and Honda paying more than $10 million to be engine suppliers for the series. Can you honestly tell me that it is cheaper to be an engine supplier for Formula One than it is for IndyCar?
Okay. $10 million to be engine suppliers. And there's roughly how many full-time Honda teams?
15.
15. That comes out to an average of $667,000 per car.
Okay.
You're paying approximately $10 million per car in F1.
Remember, it takes $145 million by budget cap to put an F1 car on the track. An F1 car.
This is defined as a threat with gums.
No teeth.
Gums. I have 667 per car, 10 million per car. One of these things just doesn't belong here.
I agree wholeheartedly. Let's turn our attention to racing that is actually probably a little less expensive to get into than even IndyCar.
Considerably less.
It's the National Hot Rod Association, the NHRA, which, remember, they're going to be under a different title sponsor come 2024. It's no longer the Camping World Drag Racing Series. The top 4 divisions now are under what they call the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. But at the same time, the NHRA has also partnered with a company called AGCO, A-G-C-O, and their brand of tractors. I've never heard of this brand. Fendt, F-E-N-D-T. This deal makes Fendt the official tractor of the NHRA beginning with the 2024 season. Well, this is a great way to break out onto the scene, isn't it? Fendt tractors will support all major events. They'll help prep the tracks to ensure as safe a surface as possible. They'll also have a pair of 314 Vario models that'll go with the series at all season long to assist in the safety safari for the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. Plus, there'll be a whole lot more. Expect a whole lot of signage out there. When you're talking about the Coyotes and the Mahindras and the, Kubotas, and how many other different tractor makes are there?
Oh, wow. A ton.
You need to make a splash. They've made a splash.
They have. I mean, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Elite Motorsports, the pro stock car team organization, I should say, that puts out 8 different competitors under the same roof. They're making some changes in 2024. Nothing earth-shattering when it all comes down to it, but when you stop and think about it, for example, Erica Enders, she's a defending pro stock division champion and a 6-time division champion. Why would you mess with that? So you're not. She's going to continue in the JHG Melling Performance Camaro. Troy Coughlin Jr. continues in the Jegs White Castle Camaro, just like they did in 2023.
Wow, we get a Harold and Kumar car.
I know.
Yes.
If only we could get one of those White Castles in the Southeast.
Closest one I know to here is in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to Nashville just for a White Castle.
White Castle. No.
If I'm in Nashville, I'll go to White Castle, but I'm not going there just for it.
No.
Likely the biggest move actually comes from Bo Butner. Now, Bo Butner will continue to pilot the JHG Mountain Motor Camaro, but he's going to take on a part-time role because he's also going to begin to make the transition to become Elite Motorsports Director of Team Development. So that means they needed a second driver for that entry. That second driver hasn't been named yet. I know one driver they can strike off that list. We'll get back to him momentarily. Aaron Stanfield will drive another JHG primarily sponsored Camaro for Elite as well, with supporting sponsors Janik Brothers and JC3 Energy Services and Melling involved in that as well. From Troy Coughlin to Jeg Coughlin Jr., he'll be back for Elite as well. He's going to be piloting the Skag Power Equipment Camaro. Jerry Tucker, whose primary sponsor will be Outlaw Mile High Light Beer. I'm assuming that's not sold here. I'm guessing it's a Colorado-based beer. Mile High? Okay. Anyway, he'll be back. Elite's also bringing back the entirety of the Quadra family. Fernando Sr., Fernando Jr., Christian, all will be returning with the same sponsors they sported in 2023. So there's your Elite lineup. Like I said, nothing earth-shattering except for the Bo Butner news and the fact that they're looking for another driver. Matt's available. Tony Stewart's not. If you want earth-shattering, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you arguably the biggest news of the week. Tony Stewart Racing.
I'm not all terribly surprised by this.
In some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. Because Leah Pruitt is out of the Top Fuel ride in 2024. With an asterisk. She'll be back. Probably for 2025. For 2024, the decision is made that she will step out of the car as she and Tony Stewart begin to work towards having a little smoke or smokette. This marks her first time not racing in 27 years, going back to when she was 8 and started competing in junior dragster. She's got 12 wins in Top Fuel competition. That means her Top Fuel ride is in good, but somewhat inexperienced hands because Tony Stewart's taking it over himself after 1 year of top alcohol competition. Said in a statement that it actually was his wife Leah and the crew chief for the ride, Neil Strasbaugh, who chose him to take over the ride. It's not like Tony said, "Oh, you're coming out of the car so we can try and have a kid? I'll drive it." Nope. Apparently, Leah and Neil said, "Will you drive the car?" That says a lot.
Well, in the whole grand scheme of things, #winning.
Uh-huh. You're gonna have if you need a fill-in driver, he ain't a bad one.
No.
Not at all. Think about it. He's won titles in USAC. He was the first ever Triple Crown winner in USAC midget competition.
Mm-hmm.
Got an IndyCar title along with an IndyCar Rookie of the Year. He's got 3 titles in NASCAR Cup Series competition and was the 1999 Rookie of the Year. And he's also got NHRA wins in top alcohol competition. So what about an NHRA title? Man, wouldn't that look nice on the mantle? Whew. By the way, every single sponsor that Leah Pruitt had in 2023 was talked to about this decision, and they said, yep, we're in, and they're all back sponsoring Smoke in 2024. The new number on the car, 14 TF, 14 Top Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool stuff.
Leah's was, what's Leah's? 3-something.
Yeah, it was in the 300s.
It was in the
300s or 30s?
No, Leah's was 3-something. Let me see if I can.
I thought it was a triple-digit number. I don't know why. Smoke, meanwhile, has been given 2 honors by the National Dragster magazine. We got a picture of this somewhere so you can kind of see what the awards look like. National Dragster magazine named Tony Stewart to the magazine's all-star team from the top alcohol division. Again, he claimed 2 national event wins, 4 wins overall, 2nd place in the final standings. He was also named their Person of the Year for using his influence and airtime in other motorsports venues to promote NHRA drag racing. If we got that picture somewhere, it'll be courtesy of NHRA.com.
It is up.
Okay. Pretty cool looking awards right there. And truth be told, highly deserving.
Leah is 777.
Okay. I knew it was a triple digit number.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, Tony Stewart's one of the more high-profile people to come into the NHRA in quite a while. And I'm not trying to disrespect anybody else who's made the transition to the National Hot Rod Association. But when you're a guy who can bring as much panache as he can, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter.
Now, there's quite a few sponsors that are on Leah's car that are sponsors that he brought when he bought the team.
Oh, I get that.
So.
Okay, but you remember, they bought in with Leah Pruitt being the driver.
Absolutely.
And now you're going to bring in the relatively inexperienced, 1 year under his belt in top alcohol competition, Tony Stewart in. The fact that they're willing to stick with it, that says a lot.
But yeah, but when you got somebody, and you can put him, AJ Foyt, 3 in particular people, him, AJ Foyt, and Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
3 individuals that can adapt to any level of horsepower in any race car anywhere on the face of the earth and have no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
None whatsoever.
Wholeheartedly.
He's one of them.
You know, so, but the amount of, I mean, just the weight of his name and the fact that he was willing to go out there and do this and use that platform even when he was covering NASCAR races on Fox as a fill-in. They talked about his NHRA exploits, and he talked very glowingly about it, as much as they would probably let him within the rules, considering he was covering a NASCAR race. He's a good PR man for it.
There's no doubt about that. But there's a connection that I see here with this.
Okay, go for it.
The brand, the manufacturer brand that is on his teams, Dodge.
Yes. And we keep hearing words about them
after 2024 with Ford.
Yeah. We keep hearing words. And again, this is rumor. This is innuendo.
This could be that door.
But this could be that door. If Dodge was looking to get back into NASCAR, which...
Here you go.
Yeah. I mean, who are you going to get that's better for you to step into it?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But there's a downside to this. And I heard some of this morning. Coming in, I was listening to Sirius XM satellite radio, NASCAR. They were replaying Friday afternoon's Dave Moody show, Speedway. And Tony Stewart came up. The downside of him being involved in this, at least on the surface, came up. We'll talk about it next. In the background, we get to talk college football.
Yep.
All right. So here's the downside. of Tony Stewart going NHRA racing. And I use that term very loosely because I don't think that there's a downside. Okay?
No.
This helps out the NHRA. The NHRA is already in a situation where with the Fox network and Fox covering them, they have seen an uptick in their popularity. Their television ratings have gone up. They're back to selling out a good portion of what we will now call the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series schedule. All of that's great stuff. And Tony Stewart only brings that much more publicity to it. But the negative side is the fact that when you, on the surface, look at something like Stewart-Haas Racing. We'll set aside the Xfinity Series for a moment. The Cup Series team did not have a good year.
No.
It led people to call in to the SiriusXM satellite NASCAR channel, specifically Dave Moody, who goes on from 2 to 6 in the afternoon Central Time, Monday through Friday. And one person basically said that Tony Stewart had abandoned Stewart-Haas Racing because he was spending all of his time drag racing. Well, first of all, that's a lie. Tony Stewart's not spending all of his time drag racing.
Yeah.
He happened to be visually very, very up front at the NHRA events that he was at. I get it. But not only does Tony Stewart own Stewart-Haas, co-own, he owns Tony Stewart Racing. Tony Stewart Racing is not just an NHRA team.
Nope.
Oh, no.
Not.
Let me think. World of Outlaws operation, Donnie Schatz.
Yep. Correct.
And I think he got some other.
That's it.
Is that it? Okay. You might remember that Tony Stewart owns, 2 racetracks now?
He's part owner in Paducah, Kentucky, and he's outright owner of Eldora.
Okay. So he is, we'll say he owns 2 racetracks for all intents and purposes. We'll just make it easy. He did own a dirt track series that he has since sold to Kyle Larson. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of 2023, he still owned it.
Mm-hmm.
All-Star Circuit of Champions. And oh, by the way, didn't he found and races full-time in the Superstar Racing Experience?
Ding.
Tony Stewart's got his hands in a whole lot of things. If you think he's ignoring any one of them, you're wrong. But if you think he can be at all of them all at the same time, you're also wrong. So Tony Stewart, if he took any one thing from his time when he started in NASCAR from Joe Gibbs, and Tony Stewart has been vocal about this, by the way. Go back and look at some of the older interviews. Or ask Tony Stewart yourself about what he learned from Joe Gibbs. Tony admits that he had a great time racing for Joe Gibbs. And he learned a lot. Because what did he do when he started with Gene Haas at Stewart-Haas Racing? He totally redid what had been the Haas CNC Racing team, remade it into Stewart-Haas, and took people he knew could do the job and he trusted to do their job and hired them and put them in their places to do their job so that he didn't have to be watching over them 24/7.
Yep, that is correct.
The mark of the best managers that I've ever worked for has been, I'm going to hire the best people to get the job done and let them do their job. And conversely, I've worked for some really, really horrible managers in my time in the broadcasting business. I mean, flat out god awful. I will not mention their names here because they're still alive. But the mark of every single one of them was the fact that they would go out and they would hire people, not necessarily just me, and they would hover over them every step of the way and question why we, putting myself in there as a collective, were doing what we were doing. What did you hire me for? What did you hire them for? You hired them to do a job. You hired them believing you could do that job. Let them do that job. Stop thinking that you are the only one in this building that knows what the heck they're doing. Let these people do their job. Tony Stewart does. Mm-hmm. At Stewart-Haas Racing, it begins with Greg Zipadelli. If you think Tony and Gene, who, by the way, Gene also owns a Formula One team and owns a pretty big company called Haas CNC Machining.
Yeah.
So if you think Gene Haas is at Stewart-Haas Racing 24/7, 365, you're also wrong.
Yeah.
If you think that Tony and Gene and Greg Zipadelli are happy with what the Cup Series operation did this year, I can guarantee you they're not. And they have had conversations about how to make 2024 better. But there's that glimmer of hope over there. Because in case you missed it, let's bring the Xfinity Series operation back in. Cole Custer won 3 races and the series title. And the other guy racing for him, Riley Herbst, claimed his first career win in Xfinity Series competition. Mm-hmm. So it's not like everything is just falling apart at Stewart-Haas Racing, okay? He's got people that know how to do the job, and they know that they didn't get the job done to their satisfaction in 2023. And things in 2024, I think, are going to be better.
In the words of John Coffey, gonna be all right, fellas. Gonna be all right.
All right, here we go. Other news in the NHRA. Jacob McNeil, who got 4 starts in Scott Palmer's Top Fueler last year, is going to run full-time in his cell phone Top Fuel competitor. Primary sponsorship coming from Poseidon Oilfield Services. He's going to have a veteran NHRA crew chief calling the shots for him. Mike Guger is going to be on board. That said, that car that he bought from Buddy Hull's operation, said he's actually going to compete for NHRA Rookie of the Year honors. Tony Stewart's eligible for that. I mean, he's moving from Top Alcohol into the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series.
I would think once you change series, you're eligible.
I think he has to declare for it, though. I think. I don't know.
Not sure.
Anyway, the Buddy Hull car came available when Hull decided to actually move back into funny car competition. He's been named the driver at Jim Dunn Racing. The car qualified for every 2023 race with Dunn as the driver, and his son John was the crew chief. John himself said, quote, "We are thrilled to have Buddy as our new funny car driver. I've had my eye on him for a while. The way he runs his program and his personality will be a great fit for our team. I can't wait to get him in the funny car." So from Jim Dunn behind the wheel, Jim Dunn now concentrates on owning. Buddy Hull comes in as the driver, and John Dunn will be the crew chief. And then Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park is no more, but the facility's still there. Huh? Yeah. The racing facility has been given a second life, but it has undergone a name change. Following the public outcry over the initial plans to kill the facility in favor of building a road through the property, well, that got nixed finally. And with that done, the Gila River Indian community, along with NHRA officials, were on hand and announced the facility that will host the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, called the Arizona Nationals, April 5th through the 7th, will be at what they are now terming Firebird Motorsports Park. And if you're thinking that sounds familiar, it should, because that's what it opened up as. The new name was available and unveiled at the PRI show on Thursday. The intent is to bring back the well-known name the facility opened up with some 40 years ago. Track manager Casey Buckman said, quote, "Our fans have packed the stands in recent years, deserve to have Nitro back in the desert, and we're beyond excited to continue our partnership with the NHRA to host the 2024 Arizona Nationals and keep these signature events alive at our facility for years to come." So apparently they figured out a way to, number one, route the road, and number two, I think it's a great thing they brought back that name.
Did you see the video of how they released it?
I didn't. No.
It was just like, it just, you picture that GIF of Leonardo DiCaprio snapping his fingers and pointing.
Yeah.
It was that reaction I got right there, because it was an old ESPN bit with Dave McClellan talking about Firebird.
Nice.
That was fantastic.
I bet.
It was fantastic.
We're going to have to look that up. To NASCAR news, and we'll get in as much as we can here over in the final couple of segments of the show, and it starts off with the 2023 Race Tech World Motorsports Symposium Awards. What? Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. Didn't even know that they were a thing, right? Well, they were held this past weekend in London, England, and NASCAR got recognized. They won the Dino Toso Race Car Aerodynamicist of the Year. Put that on a plaque. The 2023 Le Mans Garage 56 entry specifically claimed that honor. They were honored with the award by a panel of industry experts denoting excellence and technical achievement in motorsports. The Dino Toso Race Car Aerodynamicist of the Year was first awarded at the inaugural World Motorsports Symposium back in 2005. The award's namesake won the first 2 awards in that role, and therefore it was named after him. When he was the chief aerodynamicist at Renault F1 during the team's championships in 2005 and 2006. He passed away in 2008 after a battle with cancer at the age of 39. So I think it's a great thing not only that he won the first 2, but they decided at that point in time they were going to name it in his honor. It's a great thing, and congratulations to NASCAR for actually claiming that honor. Sonoma Raceway, Napa Valley, California, going to have a new look for 2024 because they're going to get new pavement for the first time since 2001. Brian Flynn, executive VP and GM of the facility, said, quote, "Our racing surface is in use more than 300 days out of the year." Welcome to the California environment. Well, our headline event is the Toyota Save Mart 350 NASCAR weekend. Our raceway is used by car clubs, automotive enthusiasts, corporate clients, and manufacturers on a daily basis. It's important that we continue to upgrade this first-class facility for everyone who comes to Sonoma Raceway. Well, the milling of the current surface is set to begin after they host Winter Jam. It's a Christian music concert on December 16 and 17, and then work slated to run through February, slated to be finalized, and they say ready for racing in March. You can expect that the asphalt to be used will be the same as what was used at Atlanta and is being used at North Wilkesboro, which will allow the pavement to have more of a weathered feel to the racers a bit sooner, while being at the same time able to maintain new integrity. Who knew that there was so much work and advancement being done in pavement?
You have a point, sir.
Yeah.
You have a point.
I think it's great, though.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah. Speaking of paving, following that scary multiple rollover crash that Stewart-Haas Racing Cup Series driver Ryan Preece suffered in the August night race, they've decided to pave over the grassy area going into the bus stop section of the backstretch, if you were to take the road course side. And it actually got done in time for IMSA to be able to test this week. Track officials released a statement that read, in part, quote, "The paving project was the result of a collaboration between Daytona, NASCAR, and the drivers to ensure the racing integrity of the chicane is preserved for all sanctioning bodies who race at Daytona, while also recognizing safety is a constantly evolving process at our tracks." I mean, we were both watching that. You and I both talked about how amazed we were that Ryan Preece was able to get out of that car. We understood why he was taken to a hospital. That was a scary, scary wreck.
That was a ride.
The fact that he was only kept overnight for observation and was back in the car as soon as he was, I think was those things that we were talking about. But yeah, you and I were texting back and forth after that crash happened.
Right.
And it was scary. Knowing that area being paved now, does it eliminate or just severely cut down the chances of having another rollover crash?
I would say it cuts it down. It's not going to eliminate it altogether.
Okay.
Because,
and I figured that was probably the answer, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure.
Case in point, you've seen what they did at Talladega.
Mm-hmm.
There is.
Yeah, if you go down towards turn 1, is that the area you're talking about?
I'm talking about all the way around.
Okay.
The entire backstretch is paved.
True.
Where it used to be grass.
Yeah.
You've got the only grass you've got is in the corners, on the below the apron, that's non-existent to worry about a flip, if you ask me.
Yeah.
The only grass that you've got is the ballpark and the tri-oval.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's paved out of 4 and going into 1 and the backstretch.
Right.
You have seen that flips at Talladega they're not non-existent, but they're way down from what they used to be.
That's true.
So I think this is a step by Daytona to proceed down that path.
Sure.
Like I said, is it going to eliminate it? No. You're never going to totally eliminate a flip in motorsports.
No, especially not when you're talking about pot competition at Daytona or Talladega.
Thank you.
It's just not going to happen. Meanwhile, back in the Concord, North Carolina area, NASCAR opened up their new production facility in the suburb of Concord, 58,000 square foot facility located near the R&D building, expected to be fully operational by mid-January, according to statistics, specifically from Bob Pockris of Fox Sports. 3 studios, 8 control rooms, 4 announcer booths. They say it will become the new base of operations for the Motor Racing Network. They're going to be able to perform live event production. The CW Sports Xfinity Series coverage is said to be based out of that facility for 2025 when they start to take over. Teams and drivers will be able to use the facility, but exactly how is not detailed. I know that the Stacking Pennies podcast for Corey LaJoie with Danielle Trotta is being recorded there already. This is quite the facility. I'm a little jealous.
I hope based out of the facility means production side, not actual live on-air stuff.
Yeah. I mean, heck, if you want to do your pre-race show from the studios there, fine. Have your announcers and camera systems on site.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll turn our attention over to the Cup Series. They did testing in Phoenix this week. 2 cars from Chevrolet, 2 cars from Ford, 2 cars from Toyota. They were all there. This was mostly a Goodyear test, but NASCAR took the opportunity to play around a little bit with the cars because they're trying to make short track racing a little better. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we come back right here on CRN and get in as much else as we can possibly do because lots of new crew chiefs too. Yeah, we are. One final segment here. Let's see how much we can get to here. It all starts out in Phoenix, where 6 teams, 2 Chevy, 2 Ford, 2 Toyota teams spent 2 days in Phoenix testing tires for NASCAR and Goodyear as they continue to look for a little bit better short track tire compound and, well, better short track racing, NASCAR says. Thursday, Corey LaJoie appeared on SiriusXM Satellite Radio, stated that he and everybody else turned about 650 laps in all. He added that he and the others went through about 30 sets of Goodyear Eagle racing slicks, all paid for by NASCAR, which at about $2,500 a set helps the teams out.
You think?
In addition, NASCAR tried different things with the bodywork, specifically under the car, spoiler or front splitter, the diffuser, other parts. Plus, Goodyear tried several different compounds. LaJoy said that Christopher Bell and the 20 team had things pretty much locked down from the get-go. His own Spire Motorsports number 7, he said, was quick on some sets, but other sets of different compound tires proved to be much more detrimental than even he expected them to be. I mean, this is one of those things where you're doing a lot of searching to try and figure it out. He said one particular situation, they had 2 different compounds, one for the right side, one for the left side. He said that set just absolutely screwed his car up.
Oh, I'm sure if you got 2 different compounds on each side of the car, because that's going to make the car react different.
Yeah, but he said at the same time, Christopher Bell was a rocket ship, and it really didn't seem to matter what set of tires they were on. That should be scary.
The videos that I seen leak from there that showed pack runs, and the 20 car didn't look that quick.
I'm just saying, he's got access to some of the stats that we don't necessarily have access to because they weren't releasing times. I'm just saying.
The car that I seen out front from some of the videos was... Yeah, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. 43.
There you go. Eric Jones did have some good things to say about it. He didn't go really into detail. Corey LaJoy probably went into the most detailed, truth be told.
But at the same time, though, if they're trying all this stuff, why didn't you just send them right up 85 to Richmond? You going to send them cross country?
Weather.
Kind of don't know.
It has to be the weather situation.
It had to have been.
I mean, that's all I can think of. I mean, you're talking about doing this in the middle or early December. Weather has to be the concern.
It had to have been.
So we'll see. I don't know what that they settled on. I mean, they were talking about the rear diffuser. They were talking about the front splitter being changed as well. And, you know, again, whatever they're going to settle on, I guess we're just going to
I saw pictures of the car without the diffuser, and thank God they got rid of that thing.
But will they in practice? I don't know. I mean, when it comes to actually going onto a short track race for the first time in competition next year, are they going to get rid of that?
Everything.
And I can't guarantee that they will.
I can't either, but from those 6 that went out there, the reaction of no diffuser was extremely positive.
Yeah.
So get rid of it.
Yeah. And Corey actually said that his car reacted, I think he said, under a smaller front splitter than it did under the bigger one. So that's interesting to know.
I saw the same thing too.
So that's interesting to know. Again, time will tell.
Bring back the phrase elbows up.
There you go.
What's supposed to be.
Put it in the hands of the driver, folks. Put it in the hands of the driver. 2020 Cup Series champion Chase Elliott, now also the reigning 6-time Cup Series Most Popular Driver Award winner, needs a new spotter for 2024. Who would have thought that? Eddie DeHaan announced he was leaving the 9 car on Twitter or X or whatever Elon Musk is trying to call it. Last Saturday, ending a dozen years with Hendrick. DeHaan's post read, quote, "Been a hell of a run, 12 years, 26 win, 2020 champs. Thank you to Mr. Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, Chase Elliott, Alan Gustafson. 468 races together, 26 wins and a title. Lastly, my dude, Kevin Hamlin. A career to many, a wonderful lifetime memory for us all. Excited for what's next." So in other words, he's not retiring. He's just leaving. Hendrick officials stated they're currently working on the 2024 plans for Elliott's spotter. DeHaan has also not announced what he will be doing in 2024 yet. That's not a small change when you think about the fact that they've been together for that long.
There's quite a few spotter moves being made.
For example, this one. Not the only Cup champion going to get a new sponsor in 2024. It's a list that includes the defending Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney, who's losing Josh Williams. And no, I'm not talking about the Xfinity Series driver. This Josh Williams worked with Blaney the last 9 years as his spotter, including his rookie year when he drove for Wood Brothers Racing. Remember that, kids? Before he took over the 12 car. Like DeHaan, Williams posted the departure on social media, said, quote, "Last week's NASCAR banquet was my last call as a spotter for the 12 team and Team Penske. After 9 years, it was time to personally and professionally make a change for myself and my family. I'm forever grateful to everyone I've gotten to work with at Team Penske, especially those that have become lifelong friends. I'm proud knowing the last 6 races were it, and going out with a Talladega win, a Martinsville clock, and capping it off with a Cup Series championship. We couldn't have finished it off any better. I'm really excited for what the future has in store, and I'm looking forward to sharing those plans soon. I can't wait to get to the Coliseum. Happy holidays." Let's talk about him first. Josh Williams. I think we pretty much know where Williams is going to go. It just hasn't been said officially yet, because Williams has also been the primary spotter for one Zane Smith.
He's probably going to the Spire camp.
I would think. As for Team Penske, who were they going to get for taking over for him, calling the shots for Ryan Blaney? I'd say they did pretty good. They reached into Stewart Haas Racing and plucked out Kevin Harvick's old spotter, Tim Fedewa. Not a bad replacement.
No, pretty respectable replacement there. I think he's going to be okay.
I think they did just fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Spire Motorsports, the one-time one-car operation that didn't want a full-time racer, it seemed, for their first, 3-4 years, they now have 3 chartered Cup Series cars, 2 full-time drivers, the other one being lent to them by Trackhouse Racing, and, of course, now they also have the former Kyle Busch Motorsports Craftsman Truck Series team.
And building.
So with all that growth, they want to become more competitive, because that's a lot of money just to get the 3rd charter and buying the Kyle Busch Motorsports team and facilities. They state cost upwards of $60 million.
We got released, Adam Stern released how much from Iredell County tax records that he dove into and found of how much Spire paid for the building and the land.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big phrase there, building and the land.
Sure.
$14.75 million just for the building and the land. And the building and the land was only valued at $7 million.
Yeah. And then you get all the equipment, meaning all the trucks.
So KB got a little bit of a profit.
Yeah. And then the report that they spent $40 million on a charter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. $60 million, highly believable.
I guarantee you Justin Marks threw in a little bit of change on that one, too.
Probably. Well, so they want to become more competitive, which they need to do. I mean, Corey LaJoie has shown signs of life, but I think Corey is somewhat hampered by the fact that Spire Motorsports is still going through their growing pains. So they went out and hired a veteran from NASCAR competition, Doug Ducart, named him president of the race team. Ducart most recently working for Chip Ganassi Racing as their CO and then executive consultant. Before that, worked 12 years at Hendrick Motorsports, ultimately moving up to VP of Development and Executive VP and GM of that particular operation. So, yeah, I'd say he knows how to run an operation pretty well.
And pretty good ones, too.
Jeff Dickerson, co-owner of Spire Motorsports, said of hiring Ducart, quote, "As Spire Motorsports continues to grow, it's important to add impactful personnel at every level. I've known and had a close personal relationship with Doug Ducart for nearly 20 years. Doug's resume and body of work speaks for itself. Having him on staff raises our competitive bar immediately. He brings results-based work ethic to our team that is set to pay immediate dividends." Well, I mean, he's saying all the right things, but again, you got to prove that on the track. Now, do I think Doug can do it? Yes. Do I think it'll happen tomorrow?
No.
Not necessarily. But I think you can make a significant step forward. Kind of like what we've seen from Front Row Motorsports over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we can honestly say I wouldn't be surprised to see a Spire Motorsports entry in victory lane at some point in time, maybe even in 2024.
I could see that.
They've also finalized their crew chief lineup. They announced that Stephen Doran and Luke Lambert have joined the organization. Doran moves over from Stewart Haas Racing, where he worked on the 4-car for Kevin Harvick. He'll call the shots for Zane Smith on the number 71. This will be his first official turn as a crew chief. But a couple of times when Rodney Childers was suspended for 2 weeks, who was the guy calling the shots on the 4-car? It was Stephen Duran.
Yep.
So it's not like he doesn't know anything about it. He's done it. Luke Lambert, on the other hand, is a name, if you are familiar with NASCAR, you should know automatically. He's a veteran crew chief, got 11 years under his belt, most recently calling the shots for the 42 at Legacy MC, which fits because he's now taken over calling the shots for Carson Hocevar on the 77, continuing a relationship the pair began in 2023 when Hocevar came in and raced several times after Noah Gragson was effectively fired for liking a questionable post on social media. Lambert and Duran joined the returning Ryan Sparks, who continues on the 7-car calling the shots for Corey LaJoie. Then there's this bit of expansion. We noted last week the RFK Racing team announced their Stage 60 entry. That'll be a 3rd Cup Series entry, but it's without a charter, and it's a part-time car. Probably, 10, 12 races tops?
Yeah, I would say.
They haven't said.
15 at the most.
Yeah. that car is going to sport the number 60. It'll be entered again in select Cup races this coming season. Brad Keselowski said that's step number one toward a possible expansion from their 2-car operation to, he says, being a definite goal, being at least a 3-car operation. Remember this, Roush Fenway was at one time a 5-car operation. That, of course, led to NASCAR putting in the cap on 4 full-time rides. But if you go back, I think it was the first year of the playoffs, Roush Fenway, not Keselowski, because it was Brad Keselowski was still racing for Team Penske. But if I remember right, the first year of the playoffs, 10 slots, all 5 Roush Fenway cars made it in.
2004. I remember.
Okay. There you go.
2004.
Half the playoff spots are taken up by one team.
Yep.
So, yeah, they were a power, but unfortunately, they have kind of systematically dropped down from 5 to 2 full-time entries. That happened in 2016. They've been at that number ever since. Keselowski said it was his goal since joining the organization as the driver of the 6 and the co-owner to be able to begin to re-expand the operation out, but they want to do things very deliberately. That's a good thing as well, because if you go in and you jump in on it too fast, you get in over your head, and everybody suffers. So all of the stuff that we saw from both the 6 and the 17 car this year, if they went straight to 4 full-time cars, say for 2024, all that advancement I think would be gone.
Oh, yeah. It would be way gone.
Because you'd be spreading yourself way too thin.
Yeah.
I think they're doing it right. 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson insists he's not done racing in the Cup Series just yet. So for 2024, he'll run several races. He's announced 3 specifically that he will try to qualify for. Oddly enough, the Daytona 500 is not listed, at least not yet. The 3 announced by Legacy MC will be Texas, Kansas, and the Coca-Cola 600, with promises that the rest of his planned attempts will be announced soon. Here's the thing about Texas, Kansas, and the Coca-Cola 600, again at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They're all 1.5-mile tri-ovals.
Yep.
During his time when he was winning 5 consecutive Cup Series titles at Hendrick Motorsports in the 48, what was it that Hendrick Motorsports was concentrating on to be able to ensure that he won those titles?
1.5 miles.
Now we know why he chose those 3.
Yep.
The 2012, back to Keselowski, by the way, the 2012 Cup Series champion said if you're going to buy a charter tomorrow, and even if you were to sign the right partners tomorrow, you'd still need to have the people and the assets. We realized we needed to crawl, then walk, then run our way to making that a successful venture. And it might not be their only expansion. Keselowski admitted he would like to take RFK Racing to IMSA in the near future. Why choose IMSA and not, say, IndyCar? Keselowski addressed that, quote, as NASCAR continues to get heavier and heavier into road course racing, I think that pedigree offers a lot of advantages to the ecosystem of a successful Cup Series team. Dude, you could be a politician. NASCAR drivers, along with IndyCar racers, have long raced in special events like the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. And let's face it, no disrespect to IndyCar. We talked about this last week. The transition to go from IndyCar to NASCAR is one thing. Transition to go from NASCAR to IndyCar is another thing entirely. But there's a lot more similarities between what NASCAR does and what IMSA does.
Right now, more than ever.
So it does seem to make a whole lot more sense once you dig into it a little bit more. On the surface, it's eye-popping. But you dig under the surface, you start to realize there's a lot of substance there.
Considerable amount.
And one more picture to show you, I think, here before we have to wrap up things. While the Petty name no longer adorns the building of any specific in-operation race team, the family is still involved in NASCAR. 2024 celebrates the Petty's 75th anniversary in the sport. They've been involved really in all but 1 year of the series. As such, the team has debuted a new logo to celebrate the occasion. The logo will adorn all Legacy Motor Club cars this coming season and at all Petty-related events. The logo on CRN Live right now, courtesy of the fine folks of the Petty family. Richard, the king himself, said, quote, 75 years in the sport's an incredible milestone for our family, especially when it all began as a family business. Spending 2024 celebrating the success and the contributions of the sport of racing that started with my mom and my dad, then my brother Maurice, my cousin Dale Inman, then to Kyle, Timmy, Richie, Mark, on to Adam, and now Thad Moffitt. We're all looking forward to sharing these stories with the fans. Kyle, who now works for NBC Sports, said, quote, my father's a walking encyclopedia of NASCAR. Just talk to him for a couple of minutes. that becomes plain. Kyle continued, quote, he was there with my grandfather, my grandmother, my Uncle Maurice at the first NASCAR race in Charlotte in 1949. Our family's been going ever since. There isn't anything our family has not seen in NASCAR. And that right there is a good-looking logo. I like that.
Yep.
I like it a lot.
Good for sure.
Let's go ahead and deal with this, too. We noted last week the grandstands and all camping slots at Daytona for the Daytona 500 already sold out. It's the earliest sellout since the NASCAR modern era began back in 1972. Marks Daytona 500's 8th straight sellout, too. Now officials at Iowa Speedway are reporting that all grandstand tickets and camping slots for their first ever Cup Series race are also sold out. Now, there's a slight difference here. Keep in mind the grandstand capacity at Iowa, much smaller than Daytona. According to Wikipedia, 123,500 in the grandstands at Daytona, 30,000 at Iowa. However, track officials report that a select number of tickets for the ARCA Menard Series and Xfinity Series races at Iowa are still available. Tickets for the second Chicago Street Race weekend went on sale on Wednesday of this week. Tickets for the first one sold briskly, but the race weekend was obviously hampered by storm activity that caused both the Xfinity and Cup Series races to be shorted. And officials with NASCAR in the city are hoping for better weather because they lost a reported $59 million on weekend number one.
Oof.
Ouch. I would like to go see it just to see it, but it's also in Chicago. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the recliner at the Edith Avenue Stadium in seat 1A is a great seat to watch that race.
I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We missed out on a couple of stories, but you know what? We'll be back next weekend, and we'll pick up with those. And hope you join us then. Next Saturday morning, December the 16th, right here on the Championship Racing Network. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy all of the activities. And hey, the Army-Navy games today. That can be fun. Even if you don't have a rooting interest, the pageantry's cool. We'll talk to you next weekend on CRN.
A presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and W236 CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
95.1 The Mountain.
Anniston Oxford's classic station.
Here is the latest weather from Alabama's meteorologist James Spann, brought to you by Bucks Island Marine of Southside, your authorized Crest pontoon dealer with full boat repair. Don't get a boat until you get a Bucks quote.
Mostly cloudy, mild, and breezy today. We'll have the chance of a few scattered showers, the high at 70. For tonight, rain and strong thunderstorms likely, the low 55. Tomorrow, much colder, rain.